Is there any other information I'm not supposed to talk about yet? I feel like there's nothing really in the pipeline that's like too secretive. That isn't just like complete conjecture.
Right.
Like,
Well, I mean, don't talk about the album with Noisia and the Deep Medi.
oh yeah,
I'm just kidding.
Album with Noisia. Yeah,
I mean, they're not a thing anymore.
With us.
We got Foreign Beggars. I mean, we got both of them. It's impossible, but we did it. So.
It's impossible.
Let's just get going then, I guess. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Great.
Yeah. What happened today? What did I do today? Back on the workout train. So that's been feeling good. Remembering that it actually helps my process.
Fantastic.
Aric, you've been running.
I am a runner now. I was not before quarantine, but I really have fallen in love with running again. And that's been definitely a huge booster in, we'll just say everything. Like, it makes me more productive. It makes my body feel great. And otherwise today, sleep schedule is the thing that could definitely be adjusted the most currently.
We are on literal opposite.
Yeah, I woke up like 2 hours ago, maybe, and Andrew's been awake all morning.
Yeah, I wake up at 5. Eric goes to bed at 5.
I go to bed at 5.
Wow.
But otherwise good. So I'm having my coffee now, catching up, but feeling good though for the most part.
How about you? How are you doing?
Yeah, man. I've been good. Like I've been, been going back to work recently, which has been fun. I would say fun, but it's been interesting. What was it? So I just wanted to ask, start off with like a little bit of background on you guys. Like, how did you guys all decide to come together in the first place and like start working on a trio?
I got this one. I knew it. He's gonna point at me.
This is where I just like.
Andrew goes, yeah. Go do your thing. Also, I was gonna say before we dive into this too, on your comment about not working for a long time, it's so crazy that like, if you would have told me, a year ago, like, hey, next year you're going to have 6 months of no working, I would have been like, that's awesome. Hooray. And now it's like, no, this isn't all it's cut out to be. It's psychologically taxing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for real. But anyways, on to Ternion Sound stuff. How did we come together? So we were all individual solo artists before we had joined forces and became very familiar with each other. Mostly here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which is kind of where we grew up within our music scene. And we're all kind of pushing ourselves to play bigger shows and get music signed. And so that's where we all became familiar with each other. But after, playing some back-to-backs at a couple different avenues, we ended up playing together at Infrasound in 2016 after some other artists were not able to make it. So we just kind of had the opportunity to fill in a time slot. And that was the moment when it like really clicked, when we all played back to back, the three of us. Mm-hmm. And we were playing a lot heavier music too. It was kind of a mix of like minimal rhythms and like some tear out stuff. Yeah. And then like some deep wonkier tunes, like this big mix of stuff. But we just really enjoyed playing together a lot, and we're already so familiar with each other that set like planted the seed of maybe we should try and do something as the three of us, or like mess around with writing music and see what happens. And that's kind of how we came to be. And then after that was like another year of figuring out how do we write together and forming a studio, and then we finally picked a name. That took quite a long time. We still took some bookings as like the three of us back to back, because we really wanted to decide on a name that would stick. And it has pretty well, and everything's been smooth sailing since then.
About when we came together, I was going to say, Minneapolis, I always felt we had a really good group of people that pushed each other extremely hard. And it was like, good. It was like positive competition, but it was always just like, it wasn't so chin scratchy, but we were all just like taking jabs at each other. We always wanted to play a show and show something new and like blow all of our friends away, And I think that kind of camaraderie like helped us, like, because we all really respected each other you know, as DJs and producers. And we were just like, that's super cool. We all pushed each other. And like that leaks in a bit, you know, into Ternion Sound. And we ended up just playing a lot of shows together. And then when we, because I was just thinking about this, when we sat down to make an official thing, there was a bunch of intentionality that we put in there. Aric and I were just talking about like the pillars of when we formed, and let's see if I can remember them, because it was like, big one was we never want to play on a bad sound system ever again, because like that's just the thing, you know, like America's got really, really good scenes and you can play music all over and all the time, but we're playing in bars for rock bands and stuff and there's no bass. So if you're not playing like tear out or melodic stuff, you know, it's just not being represented well. And it's like, if we're going to make this deeper side, we have to make sure that people get the real experience and don't hear deeper music with no bass, because then they're not going to like it, right? And then education, because we've done a lot of streams, like production streams, mixing streams, teaching techniques and stuff like that. Transparency, honesty, like all those kind of, you know, being good people sort of things. But that was like right at the forefront of like when we were trying to pick a name. We're just like, no, we're not just picking a name, we're picking like a direction, you know? And then the last kind of funny anecdote part of that is like Aric and Jack had to teach me what deep dubstep was. So, because like I came from the bro step side, you know, my heroes are all like jump up drum and bass and like Font Case, Dr. P and stuff like that. And then, you know, Aric and Jack were way more knowledgeable on Jake Kenzo, distance.
We just started earlier, like moving into like what we were playing was already.
I wasn't there yet.
Yeah, and so once we had this idea to start this group, it was like feeding Andrew like appropriate artists so he could like take influence from it, or he would send us some work in progress, and then we would go deeper. It's too loud.
Which still happens to this day.
Yeah, it still does, but
yeah,
it's fun.
Definitely.
Oh, that's sick. Yeah, it's good to say like what musical backgrounds you guys came from. So like, just developing on that. So like, you obviously had like more of like a bro and tear out sort of standpoint. Where did you guys come from before?
I mean, start, Andrew. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I've been writing music since I was like 4, doing just piano. I really like solo piano. So music has always been the direction for me since forever. And then it was like rock, System of a Down, you know, new metal kind of stuff. I didn't really play in bands. I tried to create bands, you know, and I learned a whole bunch of instruments based off like piano and stuff. But I was mostly doing like, I mean, one of my biggest inspirations is Muse. So in college, I was writing a lot of that kind of stuff. And then I found like Pendulum. And if you
That's a good transition, like Muse to Pendulum.
It works. It makes sense, for some you know? Reason. Yeah. So when I like discovered drum and bass in my small town of Wisconsin, like not a single person that I was friends with knew what I was listening to. And so it was kind of cool because I was just like, I've got this imported crazy music that no one's ever heard and it's so cool and I love it. And everybody thought I was, you know, insane, you know? But yeah, that's why my URLs for everything is like D&B Nostalgia. Drum and bass is kind of where I came from. Really into Jump Up, Original Sin, Heist, Hazard, you know, Chrissy Chris. Clips is like my favorite producer of all time. Fun fact. And then it's, you know, I pushed that for a long time as nostalgia and like did a lot of cool stuff and got to tour around. And then when we formed up, all of us, I guess it's something we didn't mention yet, is we were all getting really sick of where the genre was going, and the box just kept getting smaller and smaller on what you're allowed to do, you know? So when we dove into deeper stuff, it felt like a freeing opportunity. So that's kind of where I came from.
Also on that note, it feels like we'll say like scene politics in general was just kind of a lot more cringe in the
difference.
And yeah, it was just the kind of people that I think we all enjoyed were not as often in like the tear out scene anymore. And it was like the people that we wanted to hang out with were all the, you know, hoodie wearing deep dubsteppers and techno guys and whatever. And, but anyways, music background stuff. I will attribute most of my music to playing the drums. And I started playing when I was really little. Like in elementary school, my brother had taught me like the first little beat on like just your two little hands. I used to play it on the piano with my two fingers at our old cabin. Exactly. Super annoying, but it just like ingrained it in my head. So, but playing drums was the thing for a long time, and the music just got progressively heavier the more that some friends would expose me to different stuff. Specifically, like junior high, I was still listening to all this whatever my family had influenced me with, which was some good like old school hip hop, and my dad liked oldies, but my brother introduced like old school hip hop and like scratching and DJing influence super early on, and then my friends at the time introduced me to like death metal and blast beats and like the fastest, craziest, most technical stuff I had ever heard. At the time, and it was like, this is so interesting and hard, and I want to learn to do that. So we started trying to practice that, and then it was all about going to metal shows in the cities with my friends. Go to all ages shows and throw each other around, and just like that kind of energy I was really into, which is a really funny transition going from like super aggressive live music to then, well, like, my introduction to electronic music was right around when this dubstep in America bubble was happening. So it was already like really aggressive music. So it transitioned pretty well from the energy of the metal show to like the energy of the dubstep show. But I was also playing heavier music for sure. I don't want to say it was tear out. I didn't think that. I was more in like the OG rhythm stuff and like doing chopping and trying to be technical like that. And then it kind of transitioned into the deeper music. But yeah, big influence from all the metal stuff and just that kind of like dark but powerful and heavy vibe. That still kind of sticks through in the music now.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to ask you guys, like, how long have you guys been like producing for? Just so that people can sort of like have a timestamp on that.
Together since like what, 2017 then? I think
Mm-hmm.
that's when we
yes,
started doing whips.
2017 as the three of us together.
Yeah, and then I started writing electronic music in sophomore year of high school, so 2005, I think.
Okay.
I guess. So since 2005.
2011, 2010, 2011, I think for me is when I actually downloaded a production program and started messing around.
Yeah, I've been doing it for a long time, and we both went to music college in St. Paul, which is right next to Minneapolis. So we kind of just like pushed ourselves a little more there. But that school was all about like rock and hip hop and recording arts more than like any sort of EDM production. So we're kind of floating on our own there.
Well, also to talk about real quick music stuff, and this is a fun little bit of a story, like because we're talking about roots of music too. When I went to like one of my first shows, Sky with Theater main stage for that Rotten Records showcase. So basically I came into the scene later than both Andrew and Jack, and I got to see them play as like an audience member and a fan first. And I was like, these dudes are awesome. Who are they? So I did my research and found out like, oh, these are locals and they are super rad. So I like followed Andrew to music school because he was already going there and advertising like, hello, I'm an electronic music producer and you can get a college degree for this.
Yep.
And I go here. So I was like, I'm going to do that.
Yep.
So even before I was going to that college, I had been in contact with Andrew, and he would come and let me in the door to the college because I didn't have like the swipe key, so I could go to the EDM club and learn how to write music. But it's been really full circle personally, also because even before I got to work with Andrew and Jack, I was a fan of both of them. So
that's really cool. Yeah, but most people don't know that side of it. So leading on to like when you guys got together and started making music, I've had experience with like working with other people before, and it doesn't always work out like the first time round, especially like when you're in the studio with them and that, because it's kind of hard to gauge a vibe and stuff. Did you guys have any like teething issues when it came to working with each other that you had to iron out, or did it go pretty smoothly from the bat?
would say it's cyclical because like we've been working together for a long time now, you know, and something that went hand in hand with us forming was Jack and I and some friends created a computer arts collaborative space in Minneapolis. It's supposed to be like a co-working shared studios like thing. And most of us were electronic artists, and we have 2 videographers who work there. So at the same time Ternion Sound was kind of being created, we had that exciting, super cool space we were building. And so we would just like go in and have a lot of fun, like writing, like Jack and I would write some stuff together, just testing out the space. And it just like kind of came a bit naturally because we would use like timers and stuff. I remember, I guess there was a lot of teething. If I think back, like one issue can be someone's like hogging the chair, which isn't true that they're hogging the chair. It's just like, you know, sometimes you can see someone's beating their head against the wall and it's not really getting anywhere. You know, it kind of brings the vibe down or something while the other person's kind of waiting and maybe has ideas. So we started to implement timers. So it'd be like you get 30 minutes and then we rotate, you know, and lay down ideas. We did that for a while. And then alongside that, we would always have like, oh, hey, I brought, you know, whip to the table. What do you guys think? What should I add? You know, maybe someone will go in on it. And at this point now, we use 3 different DAWs, sometimes even more. So Eric's on Logic, I'm on FL, Jack's on Ableton or Bitwig.
And Bitwig now.
Yeah. And Jack can use all of them. The only one we really don't use as much, Jack and I, is Logic because we don't have a Mac. And usually what happens now is one of us will get a tune to like, I would say 70 or 80% and show it to the group. And then either get feedback and switch things up or just like get it approved as a Ternion track and finish it. Or like we'll send it to, usually I'm like the tune finisher a lot of times. So like push it, send me the stems and I'll just add like a few crashes, risers, and maybe a little variation and do a final mix master, you know. The sparkle, essentially.
You gotta add the sparkle to the tune.
But I personally, and I don't want to speak for Jack or Eric, but I have battled trying to collaborate with people forever. It's so hard, you know. So sometimes it works, and the only real thing that I've found, other than you need to like try to like line up your goals, but that doesn't even work. It's like you just need to just let whatever happens and not come in with too many expectations, because it's like it's just hard to flow in the same direction. You're gonna have a lot better time if you're just like, we made a halftime tune today. Yeah. Why not? You know, it's not gonna work for Ternion necessarily. It's weird, but it was fun, and I didn't like hate the process, you know, and like we learned and shared techniques. But yeah, if you try to force it's so hard, which I'm sure everybody finds out pretty fast.
I was gonna say it's like such an emotional, you know, personal aspect to like being able to just create in general, and we all have different comfort zones of like what time of day do we do that, and what you know, program are we even in, or synths do we like to use, or techniques and everything. So it was like, you know, it's still honestly constantly evolving about how we work with each other. And you know, that's in regards to kind of the entire project. We've fallen into our roles with like who does what with our Patreon or like social media posting and stuff like that, or checking the emails. But it's constantly like learning, excuse me, what works well for the group to like stay organized and to actually get things done. Like, you know, maybe I have a great month and I can come out with 5 little 2-minute long works in progress, and I'll send that over to Andrew, and he likes 2 of these ideas, so we'll stem that out and maybe that'll get done. Or the next month, Jack will write an entire tune, we'll love it immediately, and then it's done. So it's constantly like evolving about how we work with each other. I think the thing that's different now is that we each are sort of continuing to build our own workspace to be exactly what we like personally, so that it helps, you know, our efficiency be better to work together.
Yeah, we aren't in the shared space anymore,
Mhm.
both for COVID reasons and other reasons, basically. So it's like right before quarantine happened, we already were kind of moving into our own spaces. I like bought a house not too long ago, and I have a separate room where I was going to set up a lot of my gear. And thank God, right before quarantine happened, I just built a computer. You know, and then Jack and Aric were living together at the time, so they took the Ternion Sound production computer, and I had one, so I could keep working. You know, yeah, you're totally right about the evolution, but that's like with any relationship, right? Communication is the most important part. So checking in, revising, checking in, revising.
Also on the collabs note too, I think we have very, very rarely been able to like feel really good about doing a collab with another artist if they're not actually there in studio with us. Like, sure, we've been able to pull it off a few times where we can exchange stems, and we're still, of course, trying to get better at doing that. But it's just so much more natural when you're in the same workplace with this person. And like Andrew was saying, like going in with expectations can become a nightmare, honestly. Like maybe I'm really excited to work with Buka's Finest coming into our studio, but I've placed, you know, this interaction on such a like high stress level for myself. And maybe if it doesn't happen, I'm just going to get really sort of bent out of shape. So I don't want to say going in without expectation, but just having fun in studio, it'll probably give you a lot better results than like really going in with like a perfect direction.
Yeah. I found a good way that I've been working with people in the past is it's just like having a sound design session with them and just been like, right, we're going to make a bunch of sounds and then like walk away from that session and just be like, now we can both write something and then come back together, show each other what we're working on, and then go from there. It's just like, so because, you know, like you said, when you put too much pressure on stuff, it does definitely like eats away in the back of your head, like in the session. It's just like, I've had that before where I got like really gassed up to be working with someone. I'm not going to say who they are, but yeah, they had like a process, and I have a process in Ableton where I work incredibly quickly, and you know, I abuse the hotkeys, and I'm like, I have to work at a rapid pace to like get a song idea out, and then working with someone who might have a more methodical approach to writing a tune, it frustrated me, and I was like, right, I've got all these ideas and I can't like get it down because he's like taking 20 minutes to like put a drum pattern down, and like, you know, it's just something that you just need to say, hit the brakes on a little bit and just enjoy the time. And when you want to work in your own space at your own pace, you know, you can do that in your own time, really.
That reminds me too, with this constant checking in and revising thing, we talk about process a lot, which I love, honestly. I think Jack and Aric both love when we get heady about creativity. I love when there's like, I don't know, maybe twice a month, like the Ternion group chat will just be like an essay on some topic that we're either discovering or arguing about or learning, you know, because it makes me feel like you can tell we care, you know, and then we're thinking about things at a deeper level, I think. And we're not screenshotting, posting, and being like, look how cool we are. We're just like still jazzed to be learning about the process of music, you know? So I think things we've discovered is respecting each other's process and trying to learn each other's process and give space for each other's process. And I think that would only be something you could do in a long-term relationship, probably, because if you're just like, hey, come down to the studio, let's do a collab, you're probably not gonna sit down and just be like, you know, tell me about your process. Like, how do you feel as an artist, you know? But it's like essential. Yeah, it's essential for a long-term relationship, you know? Even like the collabs with Ken, like Aric was talking about. Like, we have a lot of collabs with Ken, and he comes to the studio, you know, a decent amount of times throughout the year, to the point at which it's helpful to know where each of us come from if we're really going to keep refining this, you know, workflow.
I was going to say, but like you brought up the like working with Ken Bukes and that, like I've seen a couple of streams where you guys have been like producing together through, I think it might have been over Zoom or something, and like he's in Germany and like you're here and like you're all working in FL together. How did you guys like patch that all through to each other and stuff like that? Because I've had a lot of questions about that.
Yeah, so there's a couple companies now that I think are trying to make it happen, but there's one that I use, audiomovers.com,
Hmm.
and they make a plugin called Listen To, and it is a ultra low latency wave quality sending device basically. And then this is how I run my private lessons. So I use Zoom, where you can screen capture a student's computer. You can also remote control their computer, and then you can put the plug-in on their master and send high quality wave audio, almost latency free, to my computer, to my ears. So I could like produce on another person's computer, you know? It's
Big
pretty
brain.
cool. It's like
Awesome.
$8 a month or something like that. And so I think that's what Ken and I were doing for like his feedback streams and stuff like that. And if you got good connections, you can turn that latency down to like, basically Zoom is what holds you back at that point. So if you can stand writing with like a half-second latency, which is not too bad, you just can't play in synth lines, you know, like
Right.
you can actually collaborate pretty dang well. And I actually really like running private lessons that way, because where it used to be someone would come into the studio and they maybe couldn't bring their desktop, or like if I go to their house, it's like headphones only. It's not like a professional environment. Now I can just go to their computer, you know, and I can see their exact process and workflow. So that's
Cool.
been kind of a cool quarantine
In
find.
the computer.
That's where the files are.
That's great. Yeah, I need to look into doing that, because I do a few private lessons myself, but it's more so just you know, people that are looking for like basic mixing advice, or people that are kind of like starting out and
Mhm.
kind of want like a cheaper alternative to, you know, figuring out how to, you know, make basically dubstep tracks and things like that.
Yeah.
But that's it's definitely something I have to look into for sure. Building on like, you guys went on a European tour, is that right, last year?
Yeah.
Was that your first tour like outside of the States, or have you done ones before?
I personally played Australia, Paris, and Montreal as Nostalgia.
Hmm.
So this was my second time overseas, and Jack and Eric's first time as DJs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I actually I've been to Mexico and Canada, and I went to the Dominican Republic a long time ago. But otherwise, this is my first time. Last year on this tour was my first trip to Europe as well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And first international DJ tour, yes.
Nice. How did you guys find that experience then, going through Europe and stuff like together? Because
So tight.
Oh, it was absolute. It was a dream.
We're supposed to be there right now. You know,
Yeah.
that was the plan, is tour 2, you know, again with Outlook. We had it all ready to go, basically, you know, like everything was kind of getting ready to be lined up. So it's really depressing and disappointing, like looking at the shows that could have been, you know, and wanting to go back and see everybody. And it's hard to describe. Like, I think a lot more people understand the feeling of meeting someone. Like if you game with someone for years and you finally get to meet up in a town or something,
yeah.
that's a cool experience, right? And it's crazy. But like we got that a bunch of times over with all these producers that we are either homies with or homies and looked up to. And then you can see these people in their environment, you know, and just like really, it's what travel always does, you know, it just expands your perspectives, you know. And it was just so nice. I just love too that like when you talk to people over webcam all the time, you have a distorted version of what their body is actually shaped like. Because like it was Mel and Ian from Prime Audio.
Oh my God.
What is it like? They are both just like, Andrew, you're so tall. I was like, I'm not that tall. He's like, I don't know, it's like a camera angle or something. And I was like, you know, just seeing everybody's just slightly different than you expect. It's hilarious. But
Yeah, it was so great. Of course, meeting all those people that we've been talking to forever, and you know, continuing on that relationship. Just it immediately became, once we got home, like, man, I really miss all of those people, and I can't wait to go back and see them again. But it was just easily the most exciting month of, I'm going to say, our lives. I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah,
all three of us, and
sick.
The travel was so much fun. Big shout out to the Grays, Jack Haig, for being our tour manager and making that happen.
Being our babysitter during
being
Outlook.
our babysitter, the goofiest man on the planet. But yeah, no, I think of course the best parts were just like experiencing, you know, the scene, but in an entirely different part of the world, and really seeing the difference between USA shows and European shows, which was, you know, there's no emphasis on a big giant production. It's like, instead of spending all that money on a stupid huge LED wall and some, you know, fire shooting pyrotechnics, we just bought a gigantic sound system and put 2 can lights, and it's like, this is the vibe that we've been wanting forever, and we get to play in there. Every show was like that, like proper sound, super intimate. Everybody knew the tunes. It was just an absolute dream. And the culture shock was the funnest thing ever. In every city that we went to, being hosted by just amazing people and getting to go out and try. Everywhere we went to, we would always try and eat local, you know, take recommendations on where to go, and like, you know, if we could go see other live music or find somewhere to play. And it was so exciting. I could talk about it for a long time. Yes.
It's interesting, especially to like people that are like getting into it as well, because, you know, a lot of people have never like toured or even played shows, and you know, hearing someone like, you know, as established as you guys are now, and like to do it in such a short space of time, is obviously, because there's a lot of you together. There's a big workforce that goes behind that, but it's you know, it gives people a lot of hope that, you know, things can be done in a short space of time if you work hard and you know, set your goals and work towards them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like once lockdown's sort of over, have you guys got anything like planned for any more tours, or like, you know, things that might be not so much like in the works, but also in the talks of happening that you guys can talk about?
Did that rescheduled date get posted, Aric?
For which?
Middle of summer or early spring 2021.
Are you talking about the Rocks?
Yeah.
Specifically? That is, again, it's in April again. So yes, it's in spring. Basically, I mean, personally speaking, I think what would be ideal for when lockdown is over, boy, I haven't even talked about this yet, and it feels great to talk about. When it's done, what are we gonna do? So I mean, we essentially, this spring and summer, we had our largest USA North America tour planned, and we were right at the beginning of it. I think we were like 3 weekends in. Jack and I had just played in California. I got to play in Knoxville, and then the next gig was canceled, and everything after that was postponed. So if we could just take that entire tour and just slap it right on, that'd be great.
It just feels to me like, I posted this in Discord. I was just being stupid, but I was like, if I could, I would book all 52 weekends next year. You know?
I don't ever want to be at home.
I would just feel
go on tour,
because there's the list, you know, that want us back for sure, that have like been in contact with our agent, you know, and there's the list of like what we wanted to do, or some maybes, or they hadn't responded again or something. And it's like, honestly, when things can pick up again, let's just every weekend, because we had every weekend from the end of February through August booked. Like, we were playing a lot of shows, and then it was like international stuff beyond even what we did last time, you know. And we're being ambitious, but it was all pretty much set in the works, you know. So the keeping things safe and honest is super important, but I think we are ready to like start tackling that, but it's just we haven't had many conversations with each other yet about how to proceed and when to proceed. It's been a while since we talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I guess it's also difficult with, like, you know, both of our governments not really talking about where the near future sort of goes with this whole situation, you know. It's no one really knows what the plan is for the future and when things are going to start opening back up again properly. I know that you guys in the States have got a few like events that are going on, and it's sort of down to like the club's discretion whether if they want to do those sorts of things. But like here in the UK, it's still very much like, you know, no sort of like regular nightclub sort of events going on. Like everyone still has to be like sat down in you know, on tables in groups of 6 and, you know, 2 meters apart, and, you know, aggressively social distancing people and things like that. So yeah, I'm not sure what it's like out there, but I can imagine it's a similar sort of ordeal.
It's a variety, you know, because we're so big. It's just
so strange that, like, you know, every state feels like it's a whole different story. It's like, oh, now you're in Wisconsin, what are the rules here? Now you're in Minnesota, what are the rules here? And you know, it's also become clear that some states are going to follow the rules and some states are not. So Florida, sorry, anyways. Talk to Nicole for the reference. If you don't get it, I'll leave it at that. But yeah,
those alligators are just
they're
everywhere.
It's just very strange not having like a centralized, like, this is what everyone has to do right now, because that's what we should have done quite a while ago to inhibit the states from having such a high death toll as it has, which is crazy. But the other thing I was going to say about touring is, like, sure, we had this, we had just joined onto Metaphor Agency. Shout out to Finwa and the Outlook crew for that. But so that was like our into playing Outlook again, as well as doing another European tour. And we were hoping to also get working with somebody I've been talking to for a long time, Jimmy Barber, from whatever agency down in Australia, New Zealand. So it was like, not only do we have a big USA tour that was 100% confirmed, you know, our own show in Minneapolis that we were curating, the biggest shows that we have ever played by a very large margin, as well as going back to Europe and then hopefully doing, you know, Southeast Asia, Australia, New Zealand. So it was like a huge amount of stuff that was locked in and a lot of stuff that was in the works. So again, if we could just take all that and slide it on to next year.
Well,
I think the goal is to just be so busy and productive now that when it's safe and appropriate to return, we can walk in, hitting the ground running super hard.
That's what I was going to say.
We haven't left. We're just as busy as ever. We're still here. Let's do this music thing.
Yeah, because like that, I won't prescribe anything for any artist, you know, but as we talk about how to react right now and what we're going to be doing, and even inside Ternion Sound, it's 3 different opinions that we're just trying to like keep going and push together and be empathetic, you know? But that's like why we're doing the Patreon and trying to stream more. And that's why I don't feel bad about doing Patreon EPs every month, you know? And why we try to, obviously we lose money on shows because there's not enough donations to cover like the production costs of like what we're trying to do to raise our standards for that too. Because we're trying to say like, we are still here just trying to be the entertainers, creatives, you know, musicians that we are inside, even if things need to be different right now. And we're going to like work together to figure out what that different is for a while and just try to make it happen, you know? And part of it, I think, is it's helpful to be busy, you know? Because like I was doing a ton, I'm sure we all went through it, you know, but I was doing a ton of ruminating, a ton of like too much information, just like really ruining all of my creative process and stuff like that, you know? And it wasn't like I was taking in things and responding artistically. It was like I was taking in things and then going to bed for 20 hours, you know? Like, so having the Patreon and how that feels like a job, and having the Discord and being able to socially communicate with friends and all these kind of things are like business moves that are also lifestyle moves to keep us moving forward somehow, you know? Yeah. Like that's, and I'm not going to say that that is what every musician must do, because I'm sure the correct answer for a lot of people is to take a breather. And I think that's okay. I think I have a friend of mine who is feeling extreme pressure to get a whole bunch of gigs and feels like they're so behind, but they still feel immobilized by what's going on and stuff. And I was just like, you can pause, you know? The only thing that's gonna tank is Facebook algorithmic press. So if you build into your process something other than Facebook numbers, it's okay to take a pause, you know? We've de-emphasized Facebook personally, you know? But yeah, you gotta be healthy to yourself at the same time, you know?
Yeah. I'm a big, like, I'm probably on the similar sort of like work ethic as you guys. Like I'm pretty much going nonstop, but you know, I've done that a couple of times before in the past, and like I have burnt out fully, you know, and like you know, just crashed entirely. And it is important to like, you know, be on top of your mental health, and you know, being, you know, part of being an artist is like really, you know, and being a creative in general is about clocking into like your emotional side and how it affects you, because you're using it a lot. It's like a muscle, and like if you overburn it and neglect it, like it will stop to repair. You know,
that's a good way of putting it, because the burnout is real, and I got super burned out as my previous alias, you know. And it wasn't like dark, but it was just like a hopeless feeling, you know. That VIP. No. And I think that circles back to our talk about artistry and process just inside Ternion Sound all the time. Is like absolutely trying to respect away time. How much does Ternion Sound need to output? How much is fear of irrelevance? How much is healthy? How much, like, what, you know, that's a constant check-in, you know. And I think I have added to my process lots of like lower expectations and mantras, exercise, woods time, like all these things that I tell my private lesson students are composition. I'm like, you exercising is writing music. Like you getting on a weekly call with your high school friends is writing music. Like think of yourself a little more holistically, you know?
Yeah,
it's like whatever you can possibly do to put yourself in the best position to be that creative person that you can. And it's like understanding yourself well enough to know what in this external or internal world is going to jeopardize that possibility of creativity, or, you know.
One thing that I tell people all the time is like, you know, I only like, I'm someone that learns from my mistakes, as most people are. But you know, basically by saying that, I don't really listen to other people.
I'm gonna try it and fail, and then I'll change.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be like, right, okay, what he's saying wasn't bullshit. But yeah, like, you know, it's really important in life just to have all of your pillars, like all of the things that you hold dear to you, and like what make you function as yourself, like to have a balance as all of them, because I you know, during lockdown, I tried to neglect all my other areas in life and focus just on music and just on, you know, getting on and doing what I thought I should be doing, because I had all this free time. And by neglecting all these other areas of my life, I just hit a wall straight away. There's no going past where I was already at, and I was just like, oh, okay. So now, by like reflecting and like looking back, you have to have a balance everywhere so that it can all rise at the same time, in my eyes, anyways. And you know, you guys are basically just, you know, confirming that realization that I've had. So
balance.
Yeah, balance is everything. So let's you're talking about some algorithmic stuff. Now, you guys seem pretty clued in on you know, on how to promote yourself as an artist, and I feel like it's my job doing this channel to sort of encompass everything around being an artist, not just the music production, because you know, anyone can, you know, just boot up a tutorial video and just be like, hey, this is how you make a womp or a boom, and like just do that. But like you know, people want to know how to, like, you know, turn their sounds and, you know, play them out to people. When it comes to promoting your stuff, is there anything that you guys learned when you got together and started really diving deep into like algorithms and you know, how websites worked and things? Is there anything that's been like really efficient that's done a lot for you after figuring out a certain technique?
Not efficient, but I can tell you how we got to where we are. Like this would be kind of where Jack would probably take over for a bit if he was here. But when we started the studio, Jack and I were working social media for an electronic music school. So every week, both of us were like reading Facebook's updated rules and how they change things and how social media works and what posts do best, what demographics need to be spoken to at what hour of the day, blah, blah, blah. Like because we were paid to do it, you know, and part of the cool part of that job was obviously it helps Ternion Sound and all of our socials and stuff. So what started as something cool became a nightmare as we just learned how insane and complex Facebook can get and how much it would change and how much it wants you to behave in a certain way, but they won't tell you a lot of times, you know? And honestly, if you didn't have a job learning it, you wouldn't have the time, you know? Like something I learned as a social media manager is the necessity of a social media manager, you know? So I think it kind of started there. And then we tap into like, and I'll let you talk, Aric, for sure on this, but like we tap into Eric's like natural enthusiasm and personality for like crafting a lot of the posts and the look and the you know, the content. But then like when it comes to like the data points, a lot of times that's me and Jack arguing back and forth on blogs we've read on what Facebook wants us to do. So we got a lot of nice hacks that way. And usually what we would use is the non-manipulative tools, you know, like, I don't know how to go into that, but like we would know what Facebook doesn't want us to do and we would not do those things is kind of the main thing. If like all of a sudden Facebook would be like, yeah, do not mention the word competition or we're going to shadow ban you or something, or we're going to like, and if you haven't heard of shadow banning, look that up. But like, it'll be like, yeah, we're going to like downgrade your posts if you say the word comment here and things like that. So we just wouldn't do it, you know, trying to protect that like Facebook score that helps us grow in a age where Facebook stopped just letting people see their content and they made you like work for it and pay a lot. So that's
the beginning of the end for Facebook, you know, the credibility was as soon as you had to pay to get people that are already following your page to see your content. In fact, that was like what, 10 years ago or something. I don't know. Feels like 10 years. But social media stuff, I do a lot of our social media management, mostly Instagram, Facebook, a little bit of Discord, but mostly those. Andrew runs the Twitter for the most part because he always has little Twitter's about you have a little witty phrase or a picture.
Thing.
That's it. If you have good small comments, Twitter is the way to go. Instagram and Facebook stuff, I mean, it's again continuously trying to adapt to whatever seems to be working. And more recently, I'll talk a little bit about this. We're kind of planning to try and have all of our medias on a more specific aesthetic. And you'll see on a lot of like really successful Instagram pages or
labels
that you follow, or labels is a great example because most of the time you go to a page, all the posts are going to look similar and like, you know, they have their aesthetic figured out and it works for them. And some people, you know, fall in love for, you know, let's say you're scrolling through whatever music buying stuff, like the first thing that's going to catch your eye other than the name even of whatever you're buying is the artwork. And so it's like these things are actually hugely important to getting people involved with your page and getting your likes and stuff like that. It's stuff that, you know, we do worry about because it matters for the business stuff. Of course, we don't want to have to worry about in the ideal world as a DJ producer. It's like, I just get to write music and play shows and that's all there is to it. But of course, that's not the way the world works. And we have to be a business and a musician at the same time. So, you know, that's one of the biggest advantages that we have as three brains is to divvy up all of our responsibilities accordingly so that it doesn't become way too much for one person. We can keep the wheels turning.
You know, with that organized. Too, is like,
sorry about this siren.
yeah, it's not that
Okay.
bad. Having 3 people is nice in making decisions as well, because like the reason we started that co-working space in Minneapolis, like a big part of it for forming it was like co-working takes a person who works by themselves in the box, wondering what to do next, and adds the, hey, should this be like, I always use the example, should this be red or blue? And they walk over. You could spend hours on that decision, right? And someone will walk over and be like, it's supposed to be red, dumbass, you know, and you walk away. So like, we have a little bit of that going on too. It's like, it functions as checks and balances on our artistry, but then also just like, I don't know, what are we supposed to do for this? And then, you know, Jack will chime in and be like, obviously go with this. And we'll just be like, okay, great.
Don't.
Yeah, it'll be, Andrew comes up with crazy
No.
ideas. Jack tells me why it's not going to work, and then we'll come up with the middle ground.
Andrew is on the cliff. He's got his hands ready to jump, and Jack comes up and grabs him by the back of his shirt. Says, "You're not doing that."
Yeah, exactly. So it's just a lot of paying attention. But I do think too, here comes the private lesson educator in me again. You need to think about your career as a business if you're going to want to take it seriously. And I think a mindset thing would be to think holistically about your craft and just like allow yourself the space to be like, who am I talking to with this EP? What am I trying to say? What is that person like to like, what do they wear clothes wise? What do they consume content wise? What's their aesthetic? Where do they come from? Where do I come from? How do they work together? And like, what is the message I want to portray? Not just in audio, because I'm really good at that because I'm a composer, right? That's where everybody starts. But what's the message I want to convey visually? You know, is this song, you know, aggressive? Well, then maybe I want to use triangles, sharp lines, and distortion of imagery, you know? And it's kind of fun that way. And just giving yourself the time and space to respect that as well. And then you can come up with something a lot more understandable and complete, you know? And then like, how does that work into your messaging too? Like, are you going to use an aggressive sort of tone? Are you going to tell people about the story? Or are you going to just blindside them with crazy words, or, you know? So you can really follow that line through.
Oh, that's really interesting. I just wanted to like put a point, because like a lot of my uni mates, like they watch the channel, they're like the early subscribers and stuff, and we all sit in the same lectures and hear the same things going on by our lecturers, and they're literally talking about all the stuff that you guys are battling with, and like, you know, taking roles on, and like, you know, and everyone's just been like sat in the lecture hall like, oh, I don't need to do this. This is no, like everyone needs to do these things. Like, you can't just sit around and make beats all day. You can, but you'll be working a part-time job alongside that.
Yeah.
You know, and if that's, you know, that's how it is. You know, if you want to be doing that the whole time and you don't want to take music as your career, then I think you need to start looking into these different avenues, and you know, these guys are living examples of it. Like, so yeah. Just a little message out to those guys. So
can I add one more quick point on this subject?
Go ahead.
Absolutely. As long as we're talking kind of also about, you know, influencing people with how to, you know, do a better job with their social media or business of their artist project. It's like, of course, we do want to be cognizant of what you're posting, how often, and all these rules that we were just talking about, and the aesthetic of the thing. But something that's going to help you a million times more, almost, it feels like, is, and a large part of what I'm trying to do through our social media is to network with people, like actual human beings.
Yeah.
And like, you know, using your social media accounts intentionally to interact with people as often as you can that you like and that you want to work with. Like, comment on the picture from the label that you want to sign your music to, send music to Deep Tempo and to all these radio shows and to Ternion Selects, and just like, you know, intentionally trying to get into conversation with these people will build your relationship. And then once you know, get to know them a little bit, that's when like your network is going to really do the work for you almost. It's like you can put out a picture, you do all of your posts, and this natural network of people that is now, you know, that you have are friends with or have become a part of, they're just going to naturally start sharing all of your stuff because they like you.
Well, yeah, you know what that reminds me of is the promoter rants that we would
Mhm.
see every once in a while in town. And they'd be like, no DJ who never shares the show that they're playing, you know, and never posts the flyer and doesn't tell
Didn't
their
invite
friends to
anybody
come.
online. And
I'm not going to book you again, and you shouldn't be salty. And like, I think that's a message that a lot of us need to hear. And I definitely, the first time I saw a promoter post, I was like, oh, I'm not a rock star who should just show up and everybody's going to be there because I'm so cool. Like, I need to work the hustle and promote the event. And like, if I like this production company and I see that they're bringing like an act that influences me, I need to also help share. And like, that's what creates community. So like when Aric comments and keeps up with tracks that are coming out and, you know, is like watching on Instagram and stuff, it's just like, hey, Ternion Sound is listening and we care. We know your release is coming out a lot of times and like, we're excited for you. That's great, you know? And it's like, we hope that we can all reciprocate that with each other and in like a real way. We're not going to do it in like the cheesy, sleazy, like I need to get in so I can get on your label way. But you do need to kind of like, if you're not good at it, which I'm not great at it, you know, kick yourself in the pants and like maybe make a little calendar alarm to be like, I need to scroll through my Bandcamp, see who's got releases coming out, or I need to like check in on the homies and just be like, oh, I haven't even paid attention to like my friends like stuff. What has he been on right now? Oh, look, he's got something coming out. I'm gonna give it a share. You know, that's pretty smart. That's a good point.
Yeah, people want to help out their friends as well. You know, like you shouldn't like, because a lot of people would be like asking me like, you know, how do you get connections and things like that, and it's just about making friends online, like the same way you would if you were playing games with people. Like your similar
exactly
interest.
The same. Yep.
Yeah, like your interest is like music, and like you know you find other people that are, you know, like to the pages and you comment on their posts to the, you know, you guys got the Ternion Sound like fan group on Facebook and things. Like, you know, start reaching out to those people and start talking to them, because you know that you're both, it's like you have that similar interest, you probably have more. So you know, just talk and share music and everything that relates to it, because you know we're all a lot more similar than you probably give credit for. Even the people at the top of the industry as well, people running the labels and that, like they're all just heads.
Yeah,
they're all just people straight up. And like personally speaking, I mean, if you send us something on any media, I'm gonna listen to it. I listen to every single thing that people send us. Like it's you have to be willing to put yourself out there and take that risk, but you know, just go in with the intention of like, I'm doing this to, you know, build my connections and build my people network
and be able to accept feedback
and be
Thanks.
able to bite the bullet.
Is this like mainly where you're working from at the minute in terms of production, or do you have a studio somewhere?
Yep. So I'm just working here at home. I mean, so personally speaking, my production is easily the most basic of the three. I found most of my time like getting better or like growing as an artist was spent through practicing and playing out and playing shows, and not as much writing original music. So Ternion Sound has been a chance for me to learn a lot more from Jack and Andrew about how they do their processing, and try and feel like I'm trying to always catch up, which is really great for, you know, influencing me to get better, is to like have these people that I look up to even from a long time ago. So my setup's really simple. I actually just got a new laptop recently, which I'm hyped on, because this one's pretty old, so I can really dive into my updated Logic and learn all the new features and everything. So
yeah, getting a new computer is like the most exciting feeling. Like I swear, like I remember dropping a load of money on mine a couple of years ago, and like when the delivery guy dropped it off, I was literally like jumping up and down, like super gassed, like way more than any like 20-year-old should be. And like he was like walking off laughing because he probably hear me inside my house, just like, yeah, because I was like been working on this like crappy little MacBook Air for so long, and I was just like, I could have huge projects now. So
yes, exactly. Put as many OTTs as I want on it.
I just got this new studio space set up as well. Like I've got like loads of acoustic treatment on the ceilings, on the walls, new speakers, the A77s.
Beautiful.
And yeah, I just made some major upgrades, and now I'm just like, all right, I can stop buying shit now. I'm pretty happy with how the room's sounding, and like, you know, I can hear like everything nice and low, and yeah, it's been good fun. Just I haven't been using it as much as I'd like to though, because like took me all of lockdown to save up for it, and like, you know, had a bit of savings before as well, and like now we're going back to work, and yeah, every
Yeah.
3 minute that that I've got off is usually the way too late at night to be producing, because I live with some
Sure.
housemates, and then
Okay.
yeah, but it's been, yeah, gonna start writing more music. That's the one thing I need to do.
Back.
Cool, nice one. Let me just, sorry, I just like to clap whenever I'm doing like a cut so I can see it in the audio thing. So yeah, jumping back into, so we just finished like this talk on like Facebook and social media and stuff like that. Let's jump into some like more production based stuff. So let's see, when you guys are like working with each other, so like you've obviously had we've spoke about that you guys do, but like tracks, you come in with ideas and you guys polish it off. When it comes to like starting tracks and finishing tracks, Jack, you already Andrew, sorry, you said that you finished you're like mostly the track finisher at the minute. Who would you say has like equal starting tracks, like between the three of you?
I write a lot of whips. But
Andrew writes the most.
yeah, I just write
Okay.
and write and write and write. And like that's part of how we've relaxed into our roles too, is like
I'll talk about touring versus
yeah, because there's like kind of expectations. We dole out and check in on each other like certain responsibilities. And so I guess one of my responsibilities that is both assigned and taken on is like finishing music. And it's kind of become the crux of my private lessons because it's one of the hardest things for most people to do, you know?
Yeah.
So I also do client work and aliases and all this kind of stuff. So like for me, I really enjoy now that process of the difficulty of finishing tunes and stuff like that. So that's like kind of like when we want to do an EP or something, we'll have the doneness and dopeness list of tracks. We take like all the tracks that we possibly could finish from all of us and just sort of be like me, you know. And if it's from someone, if it's from Jack or Aric, we usually say like put in your last, you know, 2 cents or something, and then stem it out to me, and then I usually do whatever's left, you know. But that's how I'm very fortunate to like make most of my living right now, is like private lessons and just like writing and writing and writing and writing. So
Cool.
I really refined that process. But yeah, Aric, I actually forgot because shows haven't existed, but you could talk about like what we were doing recently.
Yes. So what I was mentioning earlier in my quick comment was so Andrew had we had this big USA tour planned for this spring and summer, and this would be the most frequently that we had been traveling aside from our past European tour. And so trying to figure out like how are we all going to do this. And one thing that we have learned through our touring was like not everybody's going to be at every show, mostly because then we would, the highest expenditure on the tour is like buying plane tickets and then getting hotels.
Yeah.
And that is a whole nother subject of, agents and doing all of that logistics. But it just became evident after our first year of trying to be at every show, all three of us, that it just wasn't financially feasible.
Yeah.
And, and mentally it's a lot also to just be gone constantly in a new place all the time and, away from friends and loved ones. Andrew he just got a house not too long ago. He's got the wife and the dog now. So he was sort of wanting to be more of the homebody. And Jack and I, and he, loved writing and being at home with his family. And Jack and I are like, we have service industry jobs. I don't have a family. Like, I want to be out traveling as often as possible. It's the most exciting thing. So we already had kind of figured out, like, Jack and I will be out doing most of the shows. And aside from, of course, there's always going to be a couple of extra special ones that we all just cannot miss. Yeah. And we all need to be there for all three of us, like some of the bigger ones, more special ones, or some other more intimate, like, you know, Gritzy Houston. We'll say, of course, Black Box in Denver. We were going to play at Red Rocks, which is super exciting. And so there was just to name a few of like we were all going to be there for all of those shows. But otherwise, it works out to where Jack and I were going to be traveling a lot. Andrew could be home and therefore writing more often.
Kind of managing kind of some stuff too.
Right, exactly.
You know, getting into like touring and stuff, I never thought, I don't know if you ever thought, I'm sure you didn't, Aric, or like any of us, like how hard it is to go play a show, especially a 2-show run in 2 different states, you know, 2 flights, 2 hotels, 2 late nights, 2 bad choices of food and drinks, potentially, and then try to like wake up back at your day job and then go do it again. It's like, especially if all 3 of us were doing it, we just don't make enough money for it to not have our day jobs, you know? So like, it would be really hard to do all of that and write and all this kind of stuff. And I'm sure we see people post about that constantly where they're just like, I haven't written anything in 5 months because I've been on tour. And as a young producer, I was always like, what's wrong with you? Just like airport, produce, plane, produce, and blah, blah, blah. And then you do it and you're just like, I want a real bed. I don't want to sleep at the promoter's house, and I want sushi. Because otherwise it's like, you just don't, it's funny how like people, and I think deep dubstep doesn't do this as much necessarily, but like elevating the rock star life, you know, just being like, planes and free champagne and all that kind of stuff. And when
I'm take
really
this Instagram photo for my jet. Like,
meanwhile, behind the scenes, 6-hour flight, 2 hours sleep.
You're sitting in coach in the middle. You got a baby next to you.
It's you had to move the baby out of scene.
They don't tell you about the babies. Touring is that's a whole different monster. And you know, figuring out, like Andrew said, there is definitely a glorified like rock star. If you say you're on tour, then people just love to assume it's all magical and constant partying
and not work.
Right? It's like I can constantly party, and my mental health is somehow perfect. And you know, every set is the best set you've ever played, and you're constantly perfectly content with yourself. And it's like, I mean, it's emotional too. Maybe you play a bad set and you're just super bummed out for like the rest of that weekend or whatever. It's always tougher than they tell you it is. And we
put a lot of pressure on ourselves to do it.
Yes, that is very true.
Which I really like about us.
Yeah,
because that's our standard.
We try and record every set that we possibly can, so that we can go back through and basically even give ourselves a little grading system. And usually we're always more harsh on ourselves individually than the group thinks, but that's just, you know, good for us anyways, to be so critical of our own mixes and performance and everything. But
I feel like as an artist, you've got to be there, because you know, if you're not, then your standards are never going to rise. You're going to feel like at one point you've just sort of like hit this god level tier, and you know, if you're not going to critique yourself when you're at your finest, then you're never going to get any better, I think. But
totally true.
Yeah, I was going to say, what was it? Yeah, so let's get like real like techie and nerdy now. So in terms of like production questions and stuff. So if you guys would like to be like locked away for like basically locked down, but
I was like,
so basically now, basically just
basically now, but there's like the only task was to produce. You had to get a new computer, you know, top specs, what doesn't matter, but you know, you could only get, let's say, 5 plugins. Everything else you had to use was stock. What would those 5 be?
It's funny because yesterday Aric was was
just asking Andrew about
Eric's like, I'm getting a new computer, could you tell me your top 5 plugins?
Basically did that.
Nice.
So for me, and I just sort of did this right before quarantine.
I'm gonna have this is gonna be an Andrew question.
So I use FL Studio. My main synth is Citrus, which comes with FL Studio. That's where a lot of Ternion Sound basses come from. Other than like resampling and modular and
Mind blown. No.
Yeah.
Stock plugins.
Yeah. It's FM synthesis, you know. It's like Ableton's operator is very similar.
Right.
So my daily drivers, I guess, would be definitely Isotope 9 Ultimate or whatever it's called. Like because I do a lot of mastering for us and for other people. And Valhalla Vintage Reverb. Thanks Ken for that tip, but it's $50 and it's one of the best versatile reverbs you can get.
Yeah.
I just don't like using Serum. Lately I've been using Soothe 2 a ton. Little like I am scared to recommend it to beginners because it will make EQing too lazy. Because it's like the auto EQer.
Is it like a de-esser or an EQ or
yes.
all of them?
It's like, imagine a multi-band EQ or dynamic EQ. So it you set the things, and then when the volume goes above the threshold, it turns the EQ down instead of compressing. But like with like 1,000 bands or something, kind of.
Yeah, so it's an anti-resonance suppressor. So I did some research into Oak Sound, and basically they used an AI algorithm to sort of like take super resonant sounds and like process like a massive audio catalog, and then basically just compiled all this information on what is nasty frequencies, and then it will suppress those resonances within any bit of audio. So it's basically like the more that audio's ran through it, I think, or the more that those guys who are developing the plugin run audio through it, the better it becomes. So every update, it's actually becoming a more effective resonance suppressor.
That's sick.
So yeah. So it's a crazy expensive plugin, but it's also, it does exactly what it says it does, and it does make things sound real nice,
It's the deharsher. Yeah, the deharsher is like a good like casual way to refer it and use it is like, and then on vocals it really removes resonances in an easy way.
Anti-resonance.
Yes. So that's the third one, right?
Pro
No, because it's too expensive. I would love to use all the fab filter stuff. Yeah, if I could afford the fab filter stuff, I would totally use it more because it's amazing. Oh, Sound Toys. So I have the Sound Toys Total Bundle. They're so good, So I use a lot of the Filter, Freak, Phase Mistress, and Echo Boy, and all that stuff is really good. So maybe we'll count that as 2.
I've just got those recently, and I'm still trying to get my head around Decapitator because it's like one of those things where it's just like you can slap it on and it sounds real nice, and then you like turn one knob and it just overdoes it.
Yeah, I use Decapitator a lot.
That's true. Yeah, lots of Decapitator for Andrew.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What about you, Aric? Like, is there anything?
I'll just add a few more on. I'm a Serum guy and for making basses, although I've really so I'm a Logic person. I'll start out by saying that also. Most of my production is using stock stuff, but this is, again, why I'm asking Andrew about more plugin recommendations, because I'm trying to add to this new computer and get some top-end stuff. But pretty familiar with Serum. I've made a lot of my the basses in there. I'm a huge fan of Alchemy in Logic. I used to just use that for, like, synthy, like doing melodic pads or stuff like that, or leads and things, but now I'm realizing that you can do a lot of stuff with basses in Alchemy, which has been fun. Shout out to Rezo. Actually, he was like, I make a lot of basses in here, and I was like, what the hell are you talking about, really?
It's got a good granular engine, definitely.
That's pretty sick. Serum, Alchemy, what else? Shout out OTT,
Yeah.
Otherwise,
I mean, I am using a lot of OTT.
There's a few more for the list.
Cool, nice one. So, in terms of like people starting out and things like that, there's not a lot of like information out there for like deep dubstep and the production of it. There's obviously a lot of like bro step and like tear out and like heavier dubstep things. But how like because obviously you guys had to figure out your way of doing things and creating your own sounds and things like that. How would you recommend to someone where there isn't a lot of information out there on these things, how to go about finding information on sound design and deeper sounds?
I mean, my recommendation is the same way I learned, which is ask the Whittler.
I was just gonna say, watch the Whittler stream.
He's such a good dude, you know, and he's been educating people for so many years in a high quality fashion, really authentically. And he's very versatile. Ken as well, but Ken just doesn't stream as much, you know, because, definitely sub to the Whittler, get in his Discord, and that is going to be the best that I know of deeper side of dubstep production, like fostering up group, other than like our Discord's starting to dip their toes in that. And then I do private lessons if you're looking for something more formal. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people that offer, not Rigby, Heb. He does,
Hebe.
yeah, I know. He does private lessons as well. And what's cool about him is we've done streams together and we've produced together. We approach things quite differently from a production standpoint. So if you got both of us and you were watching the Whittler and maybe tried to hit up some other people for lessons, you could really round out some of those techniques, which would be really cool. Yeah. But no, that is interesting that you referenced that too, because like, is it because it's less exciting? Like, why are there not as many tutorials? Like,
you know, I was gonna say, like, to make this a bigger thing too, like shooting specifically, like if you're looking to start out and learn more about like how do I produce this sound of these people, go to their pages and see if they do private lessons. You could learn directly from your favorite artists.
I think more people are doing it right now too.
Right. I was gonna say, it's like there's not as much like, you know, here's a whole, and there's, you know, a good amount of like official like college degrees that you could pursue. You know, Andrew and I went to music school for a little while. And like personally speaking, I went there for like a year and a half and then bowed out and just still continued to try and get that information from other sources. So like, yes, going to college for music stuff is a great tool and it'll give you a more like broad education with, you know, music business and theory and ear training and stuff like that. But also, if you're looking for something really specific, like there's smaller schools like Slam Academy who are, you know, if you want to learn how to make music in Ableton, they're the go-to recommendation. Or if you want to learn specifically from one artist, like there's a good chance that they do private lessons. So it'd probably just be easier, instead of looking for, you know, a huge college education, go straight to the artists because they're doing direct tutorials. And obviously Whittler's like the go-to, or if you're trying to learn and get in, and he just has his stuff nailed out so well that he knows how to tell you what to do.
That's really cool. So there's something that I feel like all artists like really battle with, so especially electronic music producers anyways, is, you know, getting mixes to like translate and things like that. And it's you know, the age old question of like, my mixes suck and I don't know like how to get them to sound good. What tips and tricks did you pick up that really allowed you to make better decisions more consistently when it comes to, because like, you know, whenever you first encounter an EQ, you know, you're just randomly like throwing bells, like massive resonant boosts and things just to figure out that you actually, so you can hear a noticeable difference. But what things were you know, that you could give like maybe my viewers that might be a little bit earlier on in the line of like, you know, what would push them in the right directions and getting cleaner mixes?
Yeah, I would say it's a journey for one. So start to look at the horizon, not like tomorrow, you know, and know that your heroes feel the same a lot of times about their mix downs as you feel about yours. Like, so it's never going to end. So if you know it's never going to end, that you're going to be a little bit unsatisfied, then you should learn how to become okay with the output, you know, get a little philosophical, but like, I tell a lot of people
learn to love yourself.
I tell a lot of people that like, There's a phrase I learned from a coworker a long time ago, done is beautiful. And you don't have to ascribe to that, but you're never going to progress if you don't try and then release and get feedback, and then try and release and get feedback and try and release. So you need to like let go of a lot of A-, B+ work.
Yeah.
You're going to feel that that's what it is, and that's okay, you know, because the A+ work might not come out for 2 years, and you might stop writing music in that time. But other than that philosophical thing, I talk about like beginner mixing tips. So you need to be able to reference properly. So I would buy either these DT990 Pros, DT770 Studio, or I just got them back, the Sennheiser HD600s. Yep. These have been a game changer for me. And yes, your music and other music will sound like trash. That's the idea. And these are also lacking in bass. So you gotta be careful, because if you crank these too much with a ton of bass, you might blow your drivers and stuff. So I would go and grab, especially if you're in an apartment or something, get fun headphones that are bassy and you can write with, like V-Motos, and then get, I'm doing my final mix down headphones, you know? And trust these over your terrible room and bad speakers, or these, because these are also not the best reference headphones, you know? And modeling your mixes after other people's mixes 1-to-1, you know? And if you're
That's
going to
what I was going to say too. Like,
if you're going to attempt
direct
mastering,
too.
yeah, put it in the project file and put a loop up, time align them if you can, and just A/B and be like, that's where their hat is. I'm putting my hat there, you know? And you'll start to learn why they put their hi-hats at that part, you know, and things like that. I think those are good starting places. And a revolution that has happened for me lately, and I realized that I've really, 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 really worked hard on refining my ear over these years. That's like been exactly what I've been working on. My new studio spot that I love has no acoustic treatment. It has focals that are on their sides that are not supposed to be. And I've been doing final mix and master references on 2 pairs of headphones. And it's been the best mix masters I think I've ever done, you know? So learning your medium, learning the process, and accepting that it's going to take a while, and like just trying to get as many of the like baseline good components as you can. And like one last caveat really quick, because someone might see this and just go out and buy these. If you get a high ohm headphone, you need to have a strong audio driver to run them. Otherwise they're too quiet and they'll sound distorted and stuff. So if you have a nice audio interface that can drive headphones loud, then you can get a high ohm headphones and they'll sound great. If you're gonna go out of your audio card, out of your PC, like your headphone jack, get the low ohm amount. It's very important. Otherwise you're gonna be like, these sound terrible.
Careful as well.
I was just gonna say a couple mixdown things quick that I'm currently just like, you know, still trying to employ into my own things is I feel like I'm constantly trying to, in my mixdowns right now, trying to keep things even more separate as possible. You know, starting off, it's like when you start producing, it feels like I'm trying to jam in all these sounds together, and everything is just like this huge mid-range muddled mix of, that was a lot of M words, of stuff. And so it's been a continuous process of like getting everything more separate and then clean and clear. It's like, I love using this Joe Nice quote in reference when he's talking about deep dubstep from his documentary. He's like, you know, everything is in its right place. There's no clutter. You know, it's like, this is where the hi-hats sit. This is where your mid bass sits. Here's where your snare is. Here's where the sub is. It's all very, you know, methodical about where each thing is placed, but getting them perfectly clean and not clashing with each other is so hard. And like, that's a horizon. That's the thing that I'm trying to get to at the very end of the day, is the most perfect, separate, clean mix down ever. What was the other thing I was going to say? It's just forever a work in progress, and trying to always pick up information on specifics that you can. Like I was asking Andrew the other day, just about, you know, how can I mix this mid bass better? And like, here's what I'm doing. What do you think could improve that? And he was, you know, recommending like, you're going for sort of a new school, more aggressive approach. Maybe you should try doing a more old school approach. So like mono this, add some analog distortion of some kind and work in a different fashion. So always being able to be open to opinions and like just try stuff, you know.
Yeah, I say that to a lot of people all the time. Like whenever you're in a rut, you tend to be doing the exact same things, expecting a different result. And you know, it's like, oh, I turned this knob like, you know, 90 degrees more to the right, and it still kind of sounds the same. And it's like, yeah, because you're using the same plugin with the same settings. Like, just try something else.
Do a new synth entirely. Just like started a whole new bass. The other thing I was going to say, just a really quick note too, is just trying to mix with all of my channels at generally lower volumes, because like I felt a lot of my tunes when I would get to the point, even while I'm mixing them, they're already kind of distorted or clashing with each other, or things start to phase a little bit. And it's like just trying to, you know, build yourself a really, really good template. We could talk about that for a while, where, you know, you're already setting yourself up for success with like where things are routed. Maybe don't, you know, mix it a little bit, but not too much, because you're going to be adding new sounds. And then just having your channels at generally lower volume, so that when you get to that final mix down and master, then you can really get it all to push where you want it to be, instead of having to constantly subtract to get it to be okay and not distorted.
Yeah, I tell most people, like, have like in Ableton you can create racks, and you know, I just telling people to have like a quick edit rack, which is just like a basic top and tail EQ, basic compressor if you need it, if you're recording stuff, and then maybe like, you know, a couple different saturation options, and like basically like basically like what you get on a channel strip on a mixing desk, you know, just something to drive, something to EQ, and you know, just have it all set up on all your channels, so that you're not, you know, whenever you open up a new channel, you don't have to grab those plugins or those particular tools, and just try and streamline things for yourself, because the quicker you can get an idea out, you know, the usually the more the idea translates from your head to the computer, you know.
I agree.
Yeah, like speed is key.
Yeah, for sure.
So what was it? I was going to get into, so we talked about plugins, we talked about that. So in terms of your releases, I was really interested by your Manuka EP, because this is the first time that you guys have made any, well, to my knowledge, that you've made any two-step. Is that right?
Officially,
Pretty much.
Especially Exploration, you know, that style. I don't think we've done too much of that, even play out, because we've been making 130 inspired things since the beginning, actually.
Okay.
Just a couple of bits now and again, and most of that was a result of you know, interacting with a few labels that were putting that stuff out, and talking to some friends about the potential of releases on labels like that. So we were already kind of, and we also had the opportunity to play a couple sets at that tempo. So it was like, well, we got to have our own little flavors to add to those slower sets. And then, you know, just started building up a couple of works in progress, and the Manuka EP was like, another thing too is even if we have a sort of back catalog of a whole bunch of unreleased stuff, a lot of the time we're not going back to pull from those, and it's really hard to be able to let go of all of that work. Just be like, this is the old me, the new me sounds way better. So a lot of that Manuka EP was like, we've been fooling around with some of this tempo on and off for quite a while, but let's use the most current and modern production skills that we now have to put out this something fresh.
No, that
really new.
Yeah, I remember when that came out, like, because I'm a big fan of your music, and
thanks.
When I saw that you released on Louis' was it his label, I was like, oh, this is gonna be interesting. Put it on, like, at the time we had all my mates around that are all like 140 heads as well, and I was just like, guys, this is gonna be ridiculous. Like,
yeah, what did you guys think?
Yeah, honestly, we were all just sat there like, all right, yeah, fair. You guys have just smashed it. Like,
It's exactly what we were looking for. It's just like, please accept this work for what it is. You know,
yeah,
I did not want, none of us wanted to go into something slightly different or disrespect our inspirations and have people just be like, that's derivative junk, you know, or like this doesn't sound like Ternion Sound or something like that, you know. But
Yeah.
I'm so glad that I've been seeing people, I think, get what we were going for, even if they can't quite articulate it in art terms, you know. So I'm glad to hear you dug it.
well, like, you know, a lot of us, a lot of the guys that were in the room as well, like, we were garage heads, because like garage has been a thing in the UK, you know, since the start, and like, you know, it's deep rooted here. And a lot of us have been involved in it, even whether it was, you know, the commercial side or the more underground stuff, and whether you've been in the scene for a while or not. But like, we're all relatively new to dubstep, but we've had a lot more exposure to garage, I'd say. And you know, hearing that, like that release, like you hit your sound in combination with the, you know, the old UK sound. It was a really nice combination. You really nailed it. Like,
and we're redneck Americans.
Let me add on to Andrew's comment by saying one driving influence for this entire project has been the fact that we've totally, through, you know, for a very long time now, fallen in love with UK sound. What does that mean? You know, I can't really describe it to you other than it's just sort of a specific way of mixing and a tune and how the sounds come together. And you know, it can't be too happy or too dark, but that's a whole thing. So like, been, you know, a driving factor of this project has been trying to gain the respect of all of these UK and European artists that we like very much. So again, that's another like, all right, let's see if we can get the UK guys to like the 130 EP. Let's see what that's different for our American fans to kind of be exposed to a little bit different sounds. And that was fun. I'm glad that it was well received.
You're totally right. In terms of like the way that I describe, because a lot of my fans on this channel are like the subscribers and the people that reach out to me. A lot of them are from the US, like an overwhelming amount, and they always like ask the question, like, you know, how do I achieve the UK sound? And it's like, it's weird. Like, if you haven't been here and you haven't gone out here and you haven't, you know, you don't see it on the regular, it's kind of a bit this mystical thing. But it's more, I try to tell people it's more of an aesthetic than a sound, and like it's something that encapsulates the whole music thing. It's not like a technique or you know,
totally.
a specific approach. It's just you know, it's just a vibe. And you know, if you live here and you're walking about outside, you see it and you feel it. And I can imagine for like, you know, you guys in the States and stuff, it's something that you really have to try and like study and like try and approach in a certain way, because you know, it's not something that's so black and white.
Well, it's changed my life, honestly. Like when my
Dubstep changed my life.
Drum and bass did, honestly. Like my origin story for EDM at all, using that just meaning writing electronic music. When I bought subwoofers on Black Friday, which is in America, day after Thanksgiving, where we like kill people to get products.
Buy, sell.
I'm so sorry. But so I got subwoofers and I went on LimeWire and I downloaded anything with the word bass in it, because I was like, I'm gonna have big subwoofer speakers. I need bassy tracks. And I got Drum Sound, Simon Bassline Smith, Junglist, Twisted Individual remix, I think.
Oh my god!
And that changed my life, because I was like, I have never heard anything like this. I don't know what it is. And that's what kind of like started me down this path of like, because I know I'm going to compose for the rest of my life. I was like, how do I make this? And so I used to write hour-long songs, because I thought drum and bass mixes were just the guy writing music for an hour. So like I would get to like 15 minutes, you know.
Amazing.
And I slowly, so I have
How does he do it?
I know. I have been intensely studying underground UK music as a loner, kind of, in a small town of Wisconsin, like for over 10 years, as my favorite kind of music. And that's why it means a lot, and it meant a lot to all of us to go out to Europe and the UK and to play Bristol, to play my favorite city in the world, essentially, where all these like big influential artists came up for me, and to get rewinds and play on sound systems. Like, I'm getting a little misty even thinking about it, because this is something that's so important to me, just because like how that jump up sound changed my life and like set my course for what kind of music I was going to write, you know? So like, I think that leaks into a lot of our professionalism and artistic integrity and intention, I think, is like, I think that's why a lot of like UK, EU people get mad at Americans trying to copycat the sound too, because we don't do it from a perspective of like understanding, you know, and watching documentaries and understanding cultural movements and understanding like where genres came from and how the US and the UK have traded dance floor vibes back and forth, you know, with house and all that kind of stuff. So like, it's extremely important to us, and we take it very seriously. And I think that's why we get the international kind of plays and success. Like, we can do the chest plate in the article. The only other person that immediately comes to mind with that kind of integrity, and I know there's a lot, I'm just really bad at remembering people, is like Sully, you know, from the US, has always been the one to be just like perfecting that vibe.
He's the most UK sounding USA producer that I can think of.
Yeah.
You know,
he
like
totally
Marshall sounds like the grime guys. There's still, I mean, he sounds pretty UK grime, to be honest.
He's good.
Marshall's right up there.
It's about understanding and having a passion for the sound and the culture on a deeper level, I think, you know? And like the way jump up and UK sound, which is so funny that I was so removed from it, but the way it affected my life and the way I respond to it when I watch these documentaries and stuff, I like feel those movements. And there's small subsectors in the States, of course, that like those people connected to, you know? And when we can meet together, like the junglists and stuff can meet together and all that, you know, it's interesting and small and a difficult task.
I remember for one of my uni projects, I was doing a research piece on DJ Shadow, because we were talking about you know, trendsetters and you know, people that were like, you know, pushing boundaries and creating genres and things. And it's always the people like that, you know, because Shadow was, you know, from the other, he wasn't, you know, growing up around New York and like at the time when the hip hop culture was like a big thing, but he was hearing it on, you know, on the radio and taking influence from it, and, you know, putting it into his own pieces. And just like you guys are doing with like the UK sound and taking your own influence and then putting your own staple on it, like, you know, it's people like you that are really pushing the genre in new directions, and you know, really giving something for people to look up to and just be like, oh, they're doing that, they, you know, they've taken this and done that with it. I want to do something on a similar sort of thing and take what I like about this and do my own thing. And you know, I think you guys are paving a real big and, you know, making a big impact on the scene at the minute, because you guys have definitely got something new going on, which is real interesting for everyone, I'm sure. So I don't want to leave you guys going too long, because I've taken up a lot of your time. So I apologize about that. But yeah, just to round things off, I think I had like one person ask about the article release. They DM'd me.
We could talk about some upcoming stuff.
Yeah, please do. Whilst I just get this up. What have you guys got planned in the near future? Like, because we just spoke about the Manuka release. Have you got anything else coming out?
I've got a small list, Aric, but how about you? I mean, so it's article.
Go ahead. Say your piece first, then I'll see if I have anything else to add.
Article, EP with vinyl, and we haven't announced the track list, but I think it's safe to say the 14th is going to be on there, because a lot of people have been asking for the 14th. And it's a 4-track.
You can say the track list. You're good. You can say the track list.
It's Smoke 'Em Out, Far North Dub. This is good exercise for me. 14th and Parasite VIP.
Got them all.
We did it.
Cool.
Yeah.
So that EP is, again, not to interject here, but holy crap, that EP is like really aggressive and then also super minimal, detective, spooky vibe. So it's like the The A side is, I think it's Parasite VIP and then the 14th.
Angry.
You're right. Like Parasite VIP is very loud and aggressive
Yeah.
for a tune. I was one of those like almost surprised that Kenzo was immediately like,
Yeah.
I know.
that VIP. I was like, really for Article?
I was like, Kenzo,
all right.
have you heard of Peekaboo? You could sign him too.
It's pretty loud. And then the 14th is like, I mean, one of my favorite tracks of ours for sure. It starts out, it's pretty versatile with like being minimal and deep, but also having some really aggressive moments within it. So that A side is all over the place, and then the B side is very like dubby and sort of detective vibes on Smoke 'Em Out. And I think it was originally was it called that originally?
No, Detective was a different one.
That's a different tune. Okay, there's another.
But it still
Jack
has
is the
sounds.
detective sounding king in the group. He makes the spooky stuff.
Far North shuffles a bit, and then Smoke 'Em Out's a little more straight beat, I think. But they're both sound system tunes with a lot of space and atmospheres. I really like Smoke 'Em Out. That's my favorite one of those.
Yeah, Jay tends to like those sort of like sound system sort of throwbacks. Like that's really his sound, I think, with Article. And then
definitely,
yeah, I think when I go back through his discography with the label, I seem to find so a big callback to like sound system culture, and then also he lets the artists really go their way with some of the tracks as well, and like put their staple on it all. So there's someone said what's up with the sub basses on that forthcoming Article release? Is it analog stuff? How are they processing that?
Yeah, I just saw that question today.
Yeah, so without going into too much like detail about your exact processing, because that involve having to open up the project and stuff like that. How are you? I feel like everyone like asks the questions. How do you get your sub basses so thick? Like, what's your approach?
It's a stressful struggle of learning. I don't know, like low end is always way more difficult for me than one, it probably should be, and two, it just is what it is. Like so I come at kicks and subs from a drum and bass perspective and a lot of my production. So I tend to do, and this is just me because Aric and Jack are both different too, is I do snappy mid-range kicks to leave plenty of space for the sub to just roll around. And I don't even sidechain my kick and sub a lot of times. It's just like, because my kick isn't even there. It's at like 150 hertz, just like, boop,
Yeah.
In the 14th, it's just I think it's just an FM, slightly FM'd sine wave. And there are a few sub tricks I'll do here and there. One fun one that is risky that I learned from Culprit. I don't know if he still does it. Have you heard Culprit used to say you can distort a sub and you can stereo spread the upper harmonics because you're technically safe in that realm because you're not going to cancel your sub, so the sound system won't phase cancel your sub. And it kind of makes, the reason I like to do that is it makes it sound better in cars a lot of times because cars don't have good sub bass often. And so you kind of over accentuate the harmonics to make it sound more full. But I've had several private lesson students beg me to dissect the 14th. And when I show them how simple it is and how it's mostly
simple.
Vibe, they get really mad. And I'm like, I'm sorry, it's just Vibe. Like I can't.
It's the summation of all the instruments. I was
but
going to
Aric
say
and Jack
too,
use a ton of kick sub. You guys have to like.
I don't know. It's something about like I'm always trying to imagine, constantly doing like A/B comparison of here's a tune that I'm totally in love with and then whatever I'm working on right now. And most of the time the kicks are well within that sub range that Andrew's talking about, like the thump. Then it's just being able to try and balance between that and your actual sub line. The other part I was going to say too that I'm also trying to work on right now a lot is a lot of the time when I write a tune and I get to that point of adding sub bass, you'll put in your MIDI notes and whatever, and shape it with EQing a little bit to where it's not touching other frequencies that you don't want it to. But then what's going to happen a lot of the time is if you're on a really great system, sure, it's going to hit on all those low notes, but wherever else that you are listening it, to this thing on, your little Bose speaker or your phone or your car or whatever, that tonality of whatever the sub, like the bass line isn't going to come through because it's just stuck into that, 100 or lower frequency range. So either being able to have enough distortion on the sub itself to where you can hear that line, or separating, like I was talking about earlier, this is the sub and here is the mid-low bass, which is the same notes, so that you can hear what the sub is actually doing.
No, definitely. All right. Well, is there anything else? So if you guys have any links that you want to send me, just shoot them over, and I'll put them in the description of the video, and I'll also probably drop them in like a little window throughout the whole duration of the thing, so people can check out anything. And yeah, I'm just anything else.
Yeah, we want to make sure that people know about our Patreon.
Just gonna say that.
So the details.
Discord.
Yep. So we got a public Discord and a Patreon subs only Discord section, essentially. The Patreon has 4 different levels currently. And if you do like the first level, you're just kind of like, hey, I like Ternion Sound and I want access to a few of the private channels like merch suggestions, and you get to vote on certain things. Like we just passed a goal of 75 patrons, which means the patrons get to pick what tune we VIP next. So you get cool perks like that. And then you've got the second tier, which is you get an EP every month that's patron exclusive for at least 3 months. So especially in this time of like live streams or whatever, if you want to flex on your friends and get Ternion dubs early, you can do that. And then it's 3 to 4 tracks. The next tier up is, of course, everything below, and then stems from project files and samples and feedback on tracks and private production streams. So that's our goal for September, is to get more on a routine of that. We're still learning how like Patreon and all that's going to work. I've done a couple private streams, and then Jack is doing sound design streams as well. So you want to see Jack's process. He's like our R&D man. And then the last tier is like I like to call it affectionately like the super fan tier, but it's I really want to support Ternion Sound's artistry tier, and it gets you everything. And then you also get a merch discount and access to that live mix archive that we talked about, how we record pretty much every show. They don't always I'm looking through the backlog right now and uploading that for everybody, but you'll hear tunes before there were tunes that never came out, version 1 of tunes. You'll hear Aric, Jack, and I talking a little bit behind the decks during a show, or like you could download the recording from your town's show, which is really cool. I think. Probably
hear some things you're probably not supposed to hear.
Yeah, exactly. So that's like the cool fan tier, and it's been the Patreon and the Discord has been amazing. We had been wanting to build a subscription service for probably over a year and talking about it, and really imposter syndrome, like self-conscious about it, because we want to create value for people. We don't want to just be like, times are hard, give us money, which is totally true. But we want to make sure we're like, times are hard, give us money, and here's our, complete best we can offer.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what's there. And then we're doing another big merch drop this fall. So keep eyes out for that. I'm going to try to be super ambitious about that. We'll see how it goes.
You're going to love it.
And some sticker drops. We're doing masks soon. I'm trying not to rush it because we're going to need masks for a while. It's okay. And boo.
Not because I'm not going to wear one. I will always wear one, but it just sucks to be.
It's a cool background as well.
Which? Oh, Andrew's?
Yeah. Nice, isn't it? Yeah. Show some of that.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna do. Oh, the secrets. Are you gonna show the secrets? Oh,
yeah.
Is Dubstep ready for color? Tune in next week.
Are we ready for baby blue? Let's do it.
Black and white is passé. Baby blue time.
Blue shirts,
Yep.
blue tie.
We're thinking we'll be the Blue Men Group. Is our new name?
Oh my god, terrible.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the update. So get tuned in to it's in T-Selects if you haven't got into T-Selects.
Hey,
Biannually or bi-monthly? No,
bi-weekly.
Twice a month, bi-weekly. Yeah, and like
Ternion Sound is my thing.
Yep.
If you want to send me music, please send us an email at ternionsounddubs@gmail.com. I listen to everything that people send me, so please send me some stuff if you'd like to have it included. Ternion Selects is live every other week. And basically the whole point of that is to showcase new music, forthcoming releases, new releases that are coming out, new music of ours that we're putting out, just to kind of showcase. I love to try and stay on top of the scene, who's coming out with what, and Ternion Selects is our opportunity to show you new stuff to be aware of, whether it's ours or other people's. Also, if you are I can't remember which tier gets, well, so far we've been streaming some of the Ternion Selects before they go live to the public on our Discord channel.
Is that in the paid tier?
I think it's just been in general so far.
Okay, because the I think if it was in the paid tiers, it would be all tiers are available to hear.
Subject to change, but for now we've been streaming that. Like, so if you log into our Discord, you get access to listening to Ternion Selects live, and I've been doing like a live commentary of that as well, which has been really fun.
Mm-hmm.
The Discord, I will also say, is a great chance to be involved with Ternion Sound activity that isn't on Facebook. And Facebook right now, of course, is continuing to be less appealing in all respects. So having access to all the same information that's almost more organized without ads
and ask questions. We are responsive and
yes. Yeah. If you got a dog or a cat, we got a pets category. If you like that category's been we got a kitchen. Okay, we got the Discord is super fun and interactive, and just a different social media outlet for us to enjoy together. Can't mention who these releases are for, but we have one single of ours on a compilation that will come out at the end of the year or early next. That is going to be super large, a label that we haven't worked with yet that I'm very excited to be. That's a various artists compilation. There's like at
big
least
hitters.
10 tracks, a lot of big names on that one too. Yeah. Very excited to talk more about it. And then we also had just got asked recently to be a part of another compilation, which is really exciting. So a couple of compilation singles. Obviously, we've got the article coming out. And then just obviously, we've also been focusing on doing a lot more self-release. The Patreon is putting the fire under our butts to finish tunes every month. So, we'll start releasing the Patreon exclusives to the general public on our Bandcamp coming up here pretty soon. So not only do we have more releases with labels, but the self-release stuff is going to start flying out the window. So
nice. That's good to hear.
Yes, sir.
I think that just about rounds it up because I don't want to keep you guys any longer. And honestly, I could keep going all night. And it's probably not good.
Some food.
So do I. It's already getting like past 12 o'clock midnight where I'm at now as well, so I need to get to bed. But yeah, thanks for doing this, guys. Honestly, it's been a real insightful talking to you guys about your process, because I've spoken to a bunch of individual artists, but it's been cool to see you guys, how you work together, and you guys are smashing it at the minute, and
thanks.
I'm just want to hear more stuff. So I reckon I'm going to be sending you some tunes real soon, because I've got a photo sound release coming up, which
excellent, nice.
That's I need some feedback before I send it off to him.
All right,
perfect.
And other than that, I hope you guys have a good rest of your days, and hopefully we can do this again soon at some point, or when things are a little less stressful.
Thanks for chatting us.
Thank you so much.
Cheers, mate. All right, have a good night, guys. Peace.
Bye.